Welcome to Dialogues of Desire,
Non-monogamy unscripted.
the podcast where we're rewriting the rules of relationships.
So grab your intimacy and exploration passports and join us from the very beginning
As we embark on an unscripted, unfiltered journey
into the world of non-monogamy.
Welcome to Dialogues of Desire.
Non-monogamy unscripted.
I'm Brit.
And I'm Sophie.
We're your hosts.
And if it wasn't obvious, this podcast is on non-monogamy.
Each episode will dive into different conversations that are raw, unfiltered, unscripted.
We've waited for this podcast to start talking about what it's going to look like. So we're really having the conversations as they arise.
Yeah, and we want you guys to come along. So a bit about me. My name's Brit. I'm 31. I have pronouns of she, her, and I identify as queer. That to me is, I don't want to put labels on who I am or who I can fuck, essentially. I do tend to gravitate towards more women or women identifying. But if you have good banter, good vibe, then you might have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a nurse paramedic.
Yeah, so I'm also 31, slightly older just by a month.
Cool.
I'm the older woman, which is very unusual for me. She, her, and I also identify as queer or pansexual. Gender doesn't really bother me as long as you're a good person, kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And we get along, then you may also be in with a chance. So normally I come from a corporate world, but I'm currently unemployed as I recover from a psychological injury related to my old work. So every story has a beginning, and our beginning started at a boxing match, actually. I go to a boxing gym, and I spent a lot of my time there at when I met Brit. So there really wasn't a chance of meeting anybody except for online.
Yeah.
And yeah, I decided that I would go to this boxing thing, even though I really couldn't be bothered. It was cold, and obviously mental health stuff made things difficult. But I was like, I've just gotten my hair done. I want to go out. I want to feel good. Like, what a waste of freshly blow-waved hair.
I was also there, and I too wasn't going to go. I was going to go to the snow that weekend.
But there was none.
But there was none. And so fate brought us together that 30th of June night.
Yeah, through a mutual friend.
Yeah. We went, had a good vibe, went home together, and then I couldn't stop thinking about her and asked her out on a date.
Yeah. So that night, mind you, she was very intoxicated and I was completely sober because I was doing photography for a friend's wedding the next day, and she still had some sort of charm.
What can I say?
And yeah, you did ask me out on a date. Very, very soon after.
Well, when you vibe with somebody and like it's a natural connection like that, you don't let those things slip through your hands. And we had a good first date. We laid a lot of things on it was so interesting. Like, obviously, a lot of the conversations that we had on our first date you would normally have in the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was kind of really nice to have a genuine connection and then like have genuine conversations and really get to know that person.
I would also say though that I think we had a lot of conversations that you might not have that early.
Correct.
So about the non-monogamy and just like our families and what we want, what we don't want. Like, you were very...
Well, we didn't want to waste each other's time.
No. I guess for me, I've gotten to a point now where it was kind of a non-negotiable that well, and I'd prefer to say it now rather than, in a few months' time.
But that's awesome for you to know that that's what you want and that you're not going to waver from that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's probably the first time in my life that I've done that. I think something recently kind of clicked for me that perhaps, I'm aware that not one person can fulfill all your needs, but I think in the past I've kind of expected that and seen maybe not cut people off, but distance myself from people prematurely because I thought, they're amazing, but this thing, it might not work in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now I'm actually more open and saying, well, come as you are, you come as you are, I come as I am, and you don't need to fulfill everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of the lens that I was seeing it through, and I guess at the moment, or now, is probably the time that I've admitted to myself that that's a thing, and to the people I'm dating.
Yeah. And I knew that I wanted you in my life and have a relationship, so...
Yeah, well, you were very like, I want to date myself. This is a time that I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
And I was saying I don't want to lose myself, which I think in the end, as we kept talking, we were pretty much saying the same thing, that we don't want to lose ourselves or kind of get lost in this whirlwind thing and forget about everything else that's going on in life, as much as that does sound appealing sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still wanted to be people with our own lives, and
We still wanted to be our individual selves.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that was really nice also to hear that.
How did you feel when I told you that I was non-monogamous?
I don't know. I'm a pretty open person, so I didn't really know much about it. So it was a good chance for me to learn more and, yeah, get more understanding on what that is. You were great, though, in the sense that when I came to you with questions, it was like the conversation was always open. And you didn't like treat me as an idiot when I asked maybe some silly questions or just naive stuff. So yeah, like I was able to go back, listen to podcasts, do some research and stuff. You sent me through good podcasts that you were listening to, just to understand more. And so I didn't know what it would look like for us or for me. Like, I've only ever been in monogamous relationships. I don't know if I want to explore that. Like, there are so many, as you said, so many different things.
Yeah, different types of
Yeah.
non-monogamy, yeah.
Yeah, whether we had an open relationship, whether you were looking for multiple relationships, or you wanted to bring somebody into ours, or if you just wanted like a playmate and have like a threesomes and stuff. I'm not sure what as I said, I'm not going to close the door to that. It is ajar, but at the moment I just want to date you. I've only ever done monogamous relationships. But yeah, it didn't scare me away. We wanted to build a foundation of safety and being able to have a good open communication with each other before we obviously embark on non-monogamy.
Yeah, so whilst I did tell Brit I was, non-monogamous from the beginning, I kind of felt as though I wanted to establish our relationship first before we kind of navigate that.
Yeah.
That it could be anything. So I'm not closed off to much in terms of what it, like, if it's sex or intimacy or long term. I'm open to that. Whether that will work for us or whether I will want to do that or whether I've got the capacity to do that as well.
Yeah.
And of course, how you feel about it. That's kind of, will come up, and maybe I'll get some clarity on that as we go along. But I think it was important to say to you that this is the full breadth of potentially what I might be wanting to engage in, and is this cool with you or not.
Exactly.
But I would say that we're still in a non-monogamous relationship because I'm engaging in that dynamic and it does affect you.
Oh, for sure. If I had to define my relationship, I would say personally I'm monogamous, but I am in a non-monogamous relationship because, that's what you... Yeah, for sure. And since then, we've continued our open communication, which has been so not normal for me. I've never experienced that before. So,
what about in previous relationships?
Well, yeah, like I've previously been in monogamous relationships, just like one other before. Went to uni and kind of found my sexual awakening and whatnot. Never wanted to get into a relationship based on like my family situation, both having divorced parents and just not wanting to be the person to hurt somebody. or also feel the hurt. I just decided that relationships weren't going to be me. But over time, I guess, hitting your 30s and seeing your siblings and stuff have these nice relationships, you kind of want to be vulnerable with somebody and have that special connection that, I think I've definitely found with you. I can be my complete true self with you. You take me for my stupid silliness. You can pull me up, but you also are willing to have fun and jump out of an aeroplane with me. And
Yes, I would, and I have.
And whatnot.
It's hard when you have come from like a broken home. You just see relationships really differently. I think you kind of think a little bit more about getting into relationships, for me personally anyway.
Yeah. Well, you also came from a broken home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my parents divorced when I was like 11 or 12, and that had a huge impact on me and the way I viewed relationships. So I've really only had one real relationship that was monogamous, which was when I was much, much younger, kind of fresh out of high school, and that wasn't very healthy.
Yeah.
So that and she was cheating, so I guess that kind of cemented this thing of like relationships are scary. Are they worth it? I don't know. So I also kind of had this massive sexual awakening slut phase, and it was fantastic, and really enjoyed it. But yeah, I think to be able to open yourself up to somebody is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. And be able to trust that whatever happens, you won't lose yourself, or, well, that's what you would hope.
Yeah. And I think you and I wouldn't have worked if I don't think either of us had had our previous relationships. And like, especially for me, like to figure out what I want, what I don't like in a relationship, even about me, like being able to stand up. Like I think in the last relationship it was just easier to be like, yeah, we'll do it your way, because it's just easier to do, and that just hurt my soul too much.
Absolutely.
That's also why I was like, I'm never, like, there's a difference between compromising and like actually having a conversation as, hey, I don't want to do this, but I guess like sometimes you have to do some things that you don't want to do. But there are things where you got to be like, no.
Yeah, you've got to be able to speak your truth where it's appropriate, and not feel like you're kind of just, all right, well, I'll let that go. It's not even worth it. I think when you get to that point of, you know what, it's not worth it, you're kind of already checked out, and you do start to lose yourself. And I know myself, I can be bitter when I feel like I'm not, you know, being heard or valued, or the relationship is kind of not balanced.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been really good, because like at the start, like I probably did at times be like, what do you want? Like, let's just do it your way. And you're like, fuck no, come on, tell me what you want. And so over time I'm like, yeah, actually this is good. Like I'm being able to speak my truth and be completely me, and we're not, you're still here kind of thing. Like nothing's changed between us. If anything, it's grown better and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, because you were in the beginning, it was kind of frustrating, because it was like, just tell me what you, like, don't just go with what I want. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like, and I, you know, maybe people would like that. Oh, if my partner just listened to everything that I want and did everything I want, that'd be fantastic. But for me, I'm like, no, I want a bit of a challenge. I want somebody that's like present in a relationship, and advocates for themselves, because you should. Yeah. And you're worth that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, baby.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I guess this relationship is probably different for both of us in that we have found our voices a little bit more.
And we allow each other to have our voice as well.
Yeah, that's right. And we do always say that we choose each other. So every day we choose each other. And if there comes a time where perhaps we don't, that we will talk about that.
Yeah, and it also makes us feel like we're not trapped in a relationship or suffocating, where I feel like sometimes people feel like they have to stay because of all these different responsibilities, where
feeling bad for the other person and not wanting to hurt them.
And knowing that you can leave is so like liberating.
It is so liberating.
Because you know that that person is here because they want to be here.
Yeah, there's no obligation to be around. You're here because you want to, as you said. And there's something really, you kind of know where you stand at any given time.
And especially going into non-monogamy, there are going to be times where I might get jealous or whatnot, feel insecure or just not know where I'm standing.
Yeah, where you're at with me.
Yeah, but knowing that you choose me and we're together because we both want to be is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of jealousy, I mean, if you were to also engage in non-monogamy, that would also come up for me, you know, just because I'm the one that's like instigating it and wanting to do that. That is a natural emotion. Jealousy isn't a bad thing. It's just about navigating that.
Yeah.
I think you need to have a really core sense of self as well when you go into this sort of stuff. A good sense of self and know that your relationship is healthy and that you're not going into it when you're shit.
Yeah.
So if you are on the rocks in your relationship for whatever reason, non-monogamy, it's probably not the answer because it's already hard enough, I think. And it hasn't even really started for us.
No.
I mean, at the end of the day, it could go really well.
Yeah.
Or it could go not so well and be a very short-lived podcast. But it'll be us, and whatever happens, I guess, is what it is. We're at the very beginning, so I guess we may not even know.
And we want you guys to come along as we explore those things as well, in case you guys are thinking about being in a non-monogamous relationship or you've previously been in one, like Soph has, and we'll talk about her relationship with that and what things she would do differently, and that might help you guys breach different topics or help bring ideas to yourself and make sure that you guys are safe and able to communicate what you guys want.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can listen to all the podcasts and you can even listen to ours, and there's a lot of information. You can know all like the technical stuff around non-monogamy or kind of the do's and don'ts. But we're kind of just sharing our experience. It's not going to be perfect.
No.
We'll probably say things that a few episodes later we'll cringe at. Who knows?
Exactly.
But I'm open to it.
And we want you guys to also challenge us on our views as well. And,
respectfully, yeah.
And let us know if you've had a similar situation. Come along for the next week as we talk about whatever else has come through.
Yeah, I think we might probably talk about a little bit more about non-monogamy and my experience, I guess.
Yeah, and why we've chosen it.
Yeah.
Remember to follow us up here and stay tuned. See ya.
Thanks for listening.
But yeah, it was like eating out at me.
Eating you up?
I was going to change that whole thing.
Eating up at me. It was eating at me.
Eating at me.
Is that good? Yeah, I think so. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Dialogues of Desire.
We hope you've enjoyed the conversation and maybe even learned something new.
If you loved what you heard or we've piqued your curiosity, make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
We'll be sharing the latest and greatest content there, so you don't want to miss out.
And don't keep all this juicy goodness to yourself. Share our podcast with friends, family, or anyone you think might enjoy listening.
The more the merrier, right? Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep those conversations flowing. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
We recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. We extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. The views discussed in this podcast are our own and are evolving with our continuing experiences and ongoing knowledge.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not replace the advice of a health professional.